I want to tell you about the day I stood at my Uncle Frank's graveside and did math in my head. That sounds cold. I know. But Frank would have understood because Frank was the kind of man who tracked every dollar he ever earned in a spiral notebook. 40 years of them, stacked in a box in his garage. Every paycheck. Every tax. Every Social Security statement. Frank died at 79, 11 months after he finally filed for Social Security at 62. His brother, my Uncle Pete, filed at 70. Pete is 83 right now, still golfing. Still collecting that big delayed benefit every month. And here's the thing that nobody at that graveside could bring themselves to say out loud. Frank collected more money, not by a little. By over $140,000. The man everyone called reckless, the one who didn't wait quietly, won a financial race. Nobody knew they were running. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how that happened, and more importantly, I'm going to show you whether Frank's choice is the right one for you. Before I get into Frank's story, let me show you the numbers that changed how I see retirement forever. Let's get the math done fast. Born in 1960 or later? Your full retirement age is 67. File then, and you get 100% of your benefit. File at 62 the earliest you can, and you take a 30% permanent cut. Permanently, for life. A $4,000 monthly benefit becomes $2,800. Wait until 70 and you get a 24% bonus on top of full. That same $4,000 becomes $5,200. So the gap between filing earliest versus latest is $2,400 every single month. Now, that sounds like an obvious decision. Wait until 70, done. But here's the question that nobody in the financial media wants to sit with. Obvious for whom? Because all of that math assumes one thing, that you live long enough for the delayed strategy to actually pay off. And that assumption is where Frank's story gets interesting. If you file at 62 instead of 70, the break-even point, the age where waiting finally comes out ahead, is around 80 to 81 years old. Frank died at 79. By 11 months, he never crossed the finish line, but he also never needed to. Here's something nobody tells couples until it's too late. Meet Sandra and Ray, retired school teachers from Ohio. Ray had 35 years of Social Security contributions. Sandra had 8 she took time off to raise their kids. Ray decided he was going to wait until 70, maximize the benefit. Brilliant. The spreadsheet loved it. What the spreadsheet didn't tell Ray? Sandra couldn't collect $1 of spousal benefits until Ray filed first. So Sandra at 62 sat and watched their retirement account drain for 8 years. 8 years of pulling from investments that should have been compounding. 8 years of stress that a simple decision could have eliminated. When Ray finally filed at 70, yes, his check was bigger, but the household had quietly bled while they waited. The rule is this. Your spouse cannot collect spousal benefits until you pull the trigger. Spousal benefits can be up to 50% of your full benefit. For a lot of couples, that's not a rounding error, that's a second income stream that's just sitting there, locked. Don't optimize your number. Optimize your household. I want you to be honest with yourself for the next 60 seconds. My friend Carlos, smart guy, financial analyst, knew the math cold decided at 62 that he would wait until 70. He had the spreadsheets to prove it was right. Carlos died at 74. I'm not saying that to be dark. I'm saying it because Carlos himself, in his last year, told me, I wish I'd started earlier and spent that money on the trips we kept postponing. Here's the uncomfortable math. The average 62-year-old in America lives to around 84. Average. But you are not average. You are a specific person with a specific body and a specific family tree. If your father had a heart attack at 68, that's data. If you've been managing a serious chronic condition for a decade, that's data. If the men in your family tend to check out before 75, that is actionable data. The break-even between filing early and filing late is 80 to 81. If there are real, honest reasons to think you won't get there, filing at 62 isn't pessimism. It's math. This is the most sophisticated reason on this list, and I almost cut it because it requires a hard conversation. Here's the counterintuitive reason that wealthy retirees sometimes file early, and it has nothing to do with needing the money. My neighbor Gary retired at 62 with a solid investment portfolio. He did not need Social Security. His advisor said, "Wait until 70. That was 2008. By the time the market crashed, Gary was drawing heavily from his investments to cover living expenses. He was selling shares at 40 cents on the dollar. That damage selling low in a crash is called sequence of returns risk. And it doesn't heal. Those shares are gone. Now ask this. What if Gary had filed early and used those Social Security checks to cover even part of his living expenses during the crash? He pulls less from his portfolio. The portfolio keeps compounding. The investments recover. There's a name for this kind of thinking. Social Security as a buffer. A baseline that reduces how much you sell when markets are bleeding. For certain investors, that buffer is worth more than the delayed credits. Gary didn't think of it that way in 2008. He wishes he had. Now, I'm going to tell you something risky, and I need you to hear the whole thing before you decide. Some people take this one step further. They claim early, not because they need the income, but because they want to put those Social Security checks directly into the market. Think about it. File at 62 instead of 70, and you receive 8 additional years of payments. Smaller payments, yes, but money that can be invested and compounded. If you generate 7 to 8% annually on those invested checks, and you live long enough, the math can work in your favor, even against the guaranteed 8% annual delayed credits. Is this risky? Absolutely. Markets lose 20% in a year sometimes. But for experienced investors who don't need the Social Security income anyway, who are simply choosing how to allocate capital, this is a legitimate calculation worth running. The key word, legitimate. Not recommended, legitimate. This one is quick, but for the right person, it's the whole answer. My cousin Elena retired at 62 from the post office. She had a federal pension kicking in at 67. She also had a deferred annuity she'd bought at 50 that started paying out at 65. Elena's retirement income was already solved. She'd built the floor. So, what did Social Security become for Elena? A bridge. 5 years of income to cover the gap while her other guaranteed streams came online. She wasn't sacrificing a lifetime of bigger checks. She was using a tool she'd spent decades paying into exactly the way it was designed to be used. Sometimes the most financially correct answer and the only available answer are the same thing. And then there's Marcus. 30 years in construction. Knees completely gone at 61. Back surgeries. Chronic pain that made a full workday impossible. Marcus didn't get to run a spreadsheet. Marcus needed income. He filed at 62. He took the cut, and when people asked him if he should have waited, he looked at them like they'd grown a second head. Wait on what? Social Security exists for this moment. It is, at its core, an insurance program. Using a safety net when you are falling is not financial failure. It is the system functioning as designed. Don't let financials shame the idea that filing early means you didn't plan well enough, stop you from collecting a benefit you spent your entire working life paying into. Now, in the interest of being honest with you, here's when early filing is genuinely a mistake. If you are still working and earning more than roughly $24,000 in 2026, do not file. For every $2 you earn above that limit, Social Security withholds $1 in benefits. You'd be taking a permanent 30% cut and still losing payments, worst of both worlds. If Social Security is your only income or close to it, the math flips hard. The difference between $2,800 a month and $4,200 a month is the difference between surviving and living. Work as long as you can. Delay as long as you can. Every dollar of monthly benefit is precious. If you are genuinely healthy parents who lived into their 90s, no major chronic conditions, an active lifestyle statistically, you will likely outlive the break-even point. Waiting wins. The mistake isn't filing early. The mistake is filing early without knowing why. Here's what I want you to walk away doing, not just thinking. 2/3 of Americans file for Social Security before their full retirement age, not because they're bad at math, not because they didn't read enough articles. Because their lives, their health, their families, their finances, their bodies pointed them in that direction. The Social Security Administration actually removed their break-even calculator from their website. You know why? Too many people were using it to make oversimplified decisions. The real calculation, they realized, is too personal for a formula. So here's your 5-step homework. Do these 5 things before you make this decision. Step 1. Log into your Social Security account right now and pull your actual benefit estimates at 62, 67, and 70. Know your real numbers. Step 2. Be honest about your health. Not pessimistic, honest. Your family history is data that no online calculator can factor in for you. Step 3. Think about your household, not just your own check. What is the best outcome for both of you? Step 4. Map every other income source you have. Is Social Security your foundation or a complement to something else you've already built? Step 5. If this decision still feels overwhelming, hire a fee-only financial planner for 2 hours. A few $100s of professional advice could mean tens of thousands in better lifetime income. That is the best return on investment in this entire script. Frank knew something that Pete's spreadsheet didn't capture. Frank knew his body. He knew his family. He knew that the trips he wanted to take required a 62-year-old version of himself, not a 70-year-old one. Was he right? The math says yes. The 11 months say yes. The best financial decisions aren't the ones that look best on a spreadsheet. They're the ones that fit your actual life. This is not financial advice. Consult a professional who knows your specific situation. But whatever you decide, decide with information. Not fear, not shame, information.